All right, guys, let's start today's session. Just introduce Julie, although she does a better job. So Julie is the founder of the Freelance Exchange of Kansas City. She is a rock star and badass copywriter herself. And today's session will be about embracing badassery and also mindset tips and tricks to stay productive, how to set boundaries, and command respect.
All right, very good. Thank you, Victoria. Let me share my screen here, guys. Yes, so today we are going to talk about embracing your own badassery, because much of getting ahead in freelance business has everything to do with mindset, with your attitude and your mindset, how you deal with yourself, how you deal with your clients, and how you deal with those around you, your loved ones. And so today, I'm going to share with you some tips and tricks that I have learned over the years of things that really can help you get ahead. First of all, I think you have to treat yourself like a business and not like a hobby. Excuse me, got a frog in my throat. And I think so many people forget that, when you run a freelance business, this is your job. So treat it like a job. Treat it, just as you would going into any other office job, even if you work from home. All right. Now, for any of you guys who don't know me, here's my shtick. Once again, for the rest of you who do, my name is Julie Cortés. I am a freelance copywriter by day, freelance rockstar by night. I write and prove advertising and promotional materials for ad agencies, design shops, large corporations, and small businesses. And I've been doing that about 22 years. About 5 years into my career, I founded the Freelance Exchange of Kansas City, this here organization, which offers continuing education, mentorship, community, and promotional and social opportunities, networking opportunities for those who are self-employed in advertising and marketing. Over the years, we also became the go-to resource for finding free freelance talent for area agencies and companies. And after I started the organization, I became the go-to resource in town for all things freelance. And I started getting interviewed by the radio and TV and in magazines and in newspapers, because apparently when you're the founder of an organization, that means you're an expert. So I went out and learned everything that I possibly could about freelancing. And I started getting asked to do all these speaking opportunities as well. And as I was speaking around at the different universities around town, it finally dawned on me, this stuff needs to be taught in school. And so I did something about that. And so I created my own course, Freelancing 101, and I now teach at the world-renowned Kansas City Art Institute as an adjunct professor. I am just now finishing up my 4th year there, and I absolutely love it. I love giving back to the community and training young artists on everything that I wish I had been trained, when I started out on this journey 22 years ago. So then it dawned on me, because so many people were coming to me saying, Julie, I really want to take your class. And I was like, that's great, but you have to enroll, or you have to pay, to sit in on my class. These were my professional peers, and nobody wanted to go back to school. Nobody wanted to do that. So I was like, oh, okay, Cortés, light bulb moment here. Let's open up a coaching arm to your business and be able to cater to those same people and give them the same skills and tips and tricks that I'm giving my own students. So I've been doing that for about 1.5 years now. I'm also getting more paid professional speaking gigs and absolutely loving it. My career path is nowhere at all where I thought it would be, but with all the twists and turns that it's taken, I'm along for the ride and I'm having a blast. So I'm going to share with you guys today things that I have learned that aren't like the nitty-gritty details, such as what I went into yesterday, which a lot of you were there with me on that journey. But this is more about mindset. This is more about attitude and like overarching strategy. Okay, so we're going to start with number 1. You guys ready? You got to train yourself. This is so important, because if you don't know how to run a business, then nobody else is going to know how you run your own business either. There are so many times I often see freelancers who maybe they lose their job at the agency or a corporation, and then they get out on their own. They're good at their craft and they know how to do that, but they don't know how to run a business, or they don't know how to get and stay motivated. They don't know where to find work. They don't know how to promote themselves, right? And so often I see this happen and people end up failing. And because they can't make it, they end up going back full-time somewhere. And the sad reality is, it's just because, excuse me, they didn't have the simple training that they could have used, right? So many of us went to school to study our crafts, design, writing, photography, etc. Yet many of us didn't take business classes because they either weren't required or we didn't think that we would ever need them. And then lo and behold, you do need them. And especially for us creative types, that tends to be a little bit more difficult because we think with the other side of our brain. So there's got to be a way that you can interweave these two elements here. All right. So today we're going to train you with a few simple tips to get you grounded and ready to either start your business, depending on where you are, or to kickstart your business into elevating it to the next level. All right. So I'm going to tell you guys, mind tricks work wonders. So sometimes you have to fool yourself, it's not the fake it till you make it, but you're just kind of fooling yourself into thinking like, yes, I do have a full-time job, right? And so there are a few things that you can do to get into that right mindset. Number one, first thing in the morning, when you get out of bed, okay, this is interaction time. What do I want you to do? I can't hear you, Shelly. I hear you mouthing words.
Make your bed.
Make your bed. Yes, why make your bed?
Sorry. It's the first task of the day, and it makes you feel like once you do one task, you can go right into the next one and the next one and the next one.
Yes, very good. It gives you that sense of accomplishment. So make your bed. I'm not saying you have to get out all the fancy throw pillows or shams or whatever, but just simply pull up your cover or your comforter, whatever you use. So not only does it give you that sense of accomplishment, but bonus, your bed will now be less alluring for you to crawl back into it later and take a nap. Okay. So many people like, oh, that looks pretty comfy. Like if it's cold or dark out or whatever, what's it going to hurt? I'm just going to go lay down for a little bit. It does hurt because now you're not focusing on your business and you're not taking it seriously. You're treating it like a hobby and not like a business. Okay. So make your bed. And then you go and whatever your morning routine is, maybe you work out, maybe you meditate, do yoga, you eat breakfast, you read, whatever the case may be. But then actually go shower and get dressed for the day. Get dressed as if you're going to work. Don't necessarily put back on lounge clothes or your pajamas, because I promise you, you will be so much more productive if you get in that right mindset, whether it's a jacket, whatever it is that you would normally wear to an office job. Try it. Try and go to your office, even if it's just down the hall. Get out of your slippers. Put on shoes, like real shoes, and get in the mindset that you are going to work. And this will help you beyond anything I can even tell you. Also, if you wear makeup, do your hair, do all of that in the morning. All right. Again, you're going to have that added boost of confidence. You're going to be ready for whatever the day throws at you. Say somebody wants to do a Zoom call right now. You can't say, oh no, I have to hide behind my screen, or can we do it later because I look like shit right now, right? You're going to be ready to go. Conversely, when we can get back out into, the live real world, if somebody says, hey, can you meet me downtown in an hour? I don't know about you guys, but it takes me like an hour to get ready. So I'm thinking I got to shower, do my hair, do my makeup, and I have a half-hour commute to get downtown. There's no way I'm going to make that. Now I'm ready. I am ready for whatever the day throws at me. So it's a matter of being prepared, and it's a matter of this attitude of you're going to work, right? So get into that mindset, put on your work clothes, and go to work. I'll tell you too, if somebody calls you on the phone, you'll have that sense of confidence. You'll sound more alert than as opposed to if you're lounging there, if you're in your pajamas or whatever it is that you wear to bed, if you're lounging there, it can totally come across in your voice. But if you're in work clothes, immediately you're going to answer the phone and be more professional. Instead of yo, talk to Julie, it's going to be I don't know, hey, this is Julie, how can I help you? Right? So there's a little bit of difference in that, get in the right mindset to go to work every day. All right, now that you're dressed, you're ready to go, I am also going to suggest getting out of the house at least once a day. Now, again, that's a little tough right now because of the lockdown. However, you can still get out and go for a walk around the block. You can go out back and play with your dog. You can still get out of the house once a day. The reason I say this is because there's so much isolation as freelancers when we work at home alone, right? And so you don't want to get stuck into that that sad, depressing, alone mindset. So get out there, interact with people, interact with society. This could be as simple as, even running errands, going to the post office, going to the office supply store, the art supply store. Maybe you set up a coffee date or a lunch date or a happy hour. Maybe you go to a freelance exchange program at least once a day, and I highly recommend you do that. Bonus, I see my internet connection is unstable. Can you guys hear me okay? Good? Okay, awesome, thank you. Thank you. But bonus, also, you'll be ready to go. I don't know about you guys, but I'm one of those people where I don't like to leave the house without makeup on. Sure, I'll go to Walmart or I'll go to the gym or whatever, but otherwise, typically I don't let people see me without makeup on. And so this way I know I'm gonna be ready for whatever comes my way. I'm gonna get out of the house and I'm gonna be ready. So I've got my makeup on, I'm good to go. Okay, so you made your bed, you got dressed, put your makeup on, you're getting out of the house at least once a day. Now come back. In your office, I want you guys to set office hours for yourself, okay? We all work from home. We all think we have a flexible schedule, and to an extent we do. That is the joy of freelancing. We get to set our own schedule. Okay, what is your schedule? Is it 8 to 5? Is it noon to 6? Maybe you've got a part-time job and you're a barista in the morning or something. What are your office hours? Now, you've set your office hours. Make sure you are working either in your business or on your business during those office hours. Even if there is no paid work to do, there's still work to do. There's so much that you can be doing around your office to help get yourself ahead that you ought to take advantage of that time. Again, be serious about your business, treat it like a business and not like a hobby. What could you do when there's no business? Anybody have any ideas before I start rattling them off?
Social
Julie,
media.
go ahead, Scott.
Social media.
Social media, yeah, you could schedule in advance. You could go and engage. Absolutely. What else, Andy?
No, Scott's so brilliant. He took my idea, which is awesome. I was going to say, prepare those posts, and like what we talked about even yesterday was, cross posts on social channels just change the narrative or the copy in your post. So that way, if you're saying people are seeing the same thing, at least they're kind of not tricked per se, but at least they're reading something different before they see the same content. I think also just continue to prospect, right? So we heard from Matt earlier this afternoon, who's hopefully we all get to that point, and maybe some of you already are, where you do most of your business on referrals now or repeat clients, which is great. But for folks like myself, who's just starting in the freelance game, keep refining, what your target audience is. And there's going to be companies that you probably still have never heard of that maybe completely need your services. So if it's, Olathe small businesses between 50 and 100 employees, keep vetting those businesses, try to find contacts, and keep calling your kind of target outreach list.
Very good. Awesome. And think too, even more generically, could you clean up your office? Could you file away papers? Could you dust things that you don't normally dust, right? Maybe it's even a matter of redecorating or repainting, to inspire you for the future. Maybe it's you take this opportunity to read that business book that you've been wanting to read, or get caught up on a podcast that you like listening to, a business podcast, right? There's so much that you could be doing during those office hours, even if you don't have paid work to be done. So take advantage of those. And again, be very mindful of your office hours and make sure that you're working either on your business or in your business during those hours. All right. Any questions on that before we go forward?
Hey, and you could volunteer for the Freelance Exchange.
You could volunteer for the Freelance Exchange. Hi, Elizabeth. Good to see you. Good to see you. Okay. So the next thing underneath train yourself. Now you guys will find that this particular section is the largest of them all because it's so important. And again, you can't train others unless you yourself are trained to begin with, right? So The next section under train yourself is to get educated. You know, so often, again, we see people who fail because they don't know what they don't know. And the tools and the resources are out there to help you, you know, move further along into your business and with the idea of being successful. Okay, so there are industry standards, there are legal issues and legal rights, all of these different things that you ought to know, okay, if you don't already. You know, these people who come out of the agencies, like I said, and many of them are so good at their craft, and even like the super talented people, you know, who are winning all the awards and everything, they get out and they're like, oh, this is a piece of cake. And then lo and behold, I mean, 6 months later, you know, all of a sudden I see an update on LinkedIn that they hung up their hat and they went back somewhere else because they couldn't make it work. And it's really sad to me because, like I said, the tools and the resources do exist. So be humble about things. Know that you don't know everything that there is out there. I'll be the first one to admit, even after 22 years, I'm constantly learning new things, how to better myself and better my business. And to be fair, things change all the time, right? I mean, even as we're talking, probably something with social media is changing, you know, Instagram's going from 30 hashtags to 12 or something, who knows, you know, things change so quickly all the time. So be on top of everything and get the education that you need. You know, whether it's through seminars like this, summits, conferences, coaching, books, podcasts, right? You know, train yourself on the things that you need to know in order to move forward in your business. Okay, next up, you want to charge what you're worth. So often I see brand new freelancers out there who are like, well, I'm just getting started. I may be good at what I do, but I'm just getting started on the freelance scene, so I don't feel like I can charge very much. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Well, so I hear this all the time. And unfortunately, while I understand that, you also have to understand that your work has value. You have worth, your work has worth. And I would challenge you to ask yourself, how can you expect your clients or your prospective clients to value your work if you don't value it yourself? Okay, think about that. So if you've been working at Hallmark, or I know I got a couple of ex-Hallmarkers here, whether it was Sprint or H&R Block or Bernstein Rain or VML, you were working there for all these years, and then all of a sudden you get out on your own, you still have really good experience. And I encourage you to not discount that, all right? Charge what you're worth. Now, I understand that it's going to be a little bit difficult to set your prices up front, and I know somebody who can help you with that. Or, you know, if you sat in on Matt's presentation prior to this, I'm sure he did a wonderful job with that. The best tip I can give you is to ask your mentors, ask your peers who are doing the same things out there. And then also remember where you fall on the spectrum of things, right? So look at your competition out there. You know, are you at the top of your game or somebody else? Are you at the bottom of your game or somebody else, right? Figure out where you fall and then adjust your prices accordingly. Excuse me. There's so many great worksheets that are online or salary calculators that you can start with to figure out like a base salary or a base hourly rate, project rate, day rate, however you charge. And these are great starting points, you know, these things that have, you know, hey, how much do you need to pay for your rent or your mortgage, your utilities, food, insurance, you know, all the basics. And like I said, it's a great starting point, but you also have to take so many other things into consideration, such as how talented are you, right? How many years experience do you have? How long have you been doing this as a freelancer? Have you won a lot of awards? Are you any good? You know, is your phone ringing off the hook? Are you in demand? There are so many factors that come into play. The other thing to keep in mind when you see these online calculators is that they're doing a national average. And the prices that we charge here in Kansas City, no way can they compare to prices in, say, New York or San Francisco, simply because cost of living is so different, right? So people in New York, for example, can probably command 3 times as much as what we're charging just because their rent to begin with is going to be so much higher than ours. So keep that in mind. your best resource is going to be to ask somebody locally, maybe somebody who's been in your shoes, who's been doing this maybe 5 years longer than you, and then they can tell you what they charged when they were at your level. Okay, make sense? Yes, very good. Okay, I know talking about money is uncomfortable initially, so practice talking about money, even if it's to yourself or to a spouse or a friend, a partner. Talk to yourself in the mirror so it becomes more and more natural. And you'll find too, if you're at a point where you are no longer receiving any pushback on your prices, well, that should signal you that it's time to raise your rates. Let me repeat that. If you're not receiving any pushback whatsoever when you offer up your rates, it's time to raise your rates. Okay? I would say probably 5 to 10% of the time you should receive pushback if you are priced accordingly to your talent, your skill, your years of experience. All right? Now, if you're receiving pushback 50% of the time, then maybe you're charging too much and maybe it's time to go down a little bit. Okay, so keep all of that in mind. Okay, so you're going to set policies and procedures in place. This is the last thing. You're going to put systems in place, set boundaries. You have to figure out for yourself what those things are. For example, when will you work? Okay, you know your office hours and you need to abide by those. It's really important for us, especially those of us who work from home, because it's so easy for us to work after hours, whether it's evenings or weekends, because our computers are right there, our office is right there. So establish when you are going to work. Okay, establish what you are going to charge or how you're going to charge. Consider things like, will you have rush fees or late fees, kill fees, referral fees, right? And you need to be comfortable with what these policies are. You need to know them like the back of your hand, have them written down somewhere. You can have them on your website. I know some freelancers who have a specific page that is dedicated to their own policies. So their clients or their potential clients know what they're getting into when they go to hire this individual freelancer. Think about your procedures as well. For example, what happens if you are interviewing, you are also interviewing a prospective client? Well, hopefully you have some process in place. What does that look like? Do you have an interview question sheet that you take in there? And then once they decide, yes, they're gonna, or they want to hire you, what does that process look like? Do you put together an estimate? Yes. And then once they sign the estimate and they approve the estimate, then do you send them a contract? Yes. Okay, and then they sign the contract and they approve the contract, they send it back over, then do you ask for a deposit? Yes. Right? So figure out what all of these things are. Figure out even like, will you set up, a new job jacket, whether it's, the old hard copy kind you can put in your filing cabinet, a new file on your desktop, and however you're organized, get that all figured out. Maybe you've got a project management system and now you need to onboard your new client. You put them in there, put all your deadlines in there, timeline, budget, all the deliverables. What does your procedure look like? Get that figured out. And all of this comes into play because you want to have your business run like a well-oiled machine. And, oftentimes prospective clients might ask you, hey, tell me how you work. And this is something that you can share with them. Well, these are my policies and these are my procedures. This is typically, how this works. Have that figured out. Be ready to answer that question. Share with everybody, what your expectations are and get it all in writing as well. Put those in your contract or your working agreement, however you want to phrase that. All right. Now, once you have all of these things set in place, your boundaries, your policies, your procedures, then you can move on and finally train your clients. All right. But you have to know all of this stuff first. And then you teach people how to treat you, what you will and won't allow. Let your clients know up front what your policies are. For example, will you answer the phone after 5 p.m.? That's up to you. Personally, my policy is no. unless it's an emergency, unless it's something that was my fault, you know, and it also depends on the client relationship. I will say that as a disclaimer. Is it somebody I really like, or is it somebody who's being a pain in the ass, right? But what is your policy? If I have a new client who's calling me at 10 o'clock, you know, and is demanding me to work the midnight oil for something that he screwed up on, no, that's not okay. Fortunately, now we have caller ID. Back in the day when I first started, we did not. It was a completely different ball game. So be very lucky and fortunate about that. All right. So share your office hours with your clients. Let them know when they can expect a response from you. You know, maybe you're stuck in a conference all day, right? And you may not be very responsive. Let them know ahead of time. You know, if you guys are in the middle of a project, let them know what to expect. If they want you to work after hours, that's going to come with a price. This is what many of us consider rush fees, and you might consider implementing these into your strategies and your policies as well. Me personally, I charge time and a half for anything that is same day, overnight, over a weekend, or over a holiday. You guys hear that? Same day, overnight, over a weekend, or over a holiday. Now, some people have different holidays than other people. It doesn't matter. If I have this holiday that I have a commitment to, whether it's religious or family or whatever the case may be, that's still my holiday. And if you want to infringe upon that, then it's going to cost you extra if I decide to take that project. All right. You too can have the same kind of policy. So define all of these expectations up front. Maybe you have a face-to-face conversation. Maybe you put it in an email. Maybe it's in your proposal or in your contract. Put things down in there such as your timeline, your deadline, your deliverables. If you work in the visual space, make sure you have information in there about intellectual property, copyright, usage, reproduction rights, all very, very important to get that spelled out ahead of time so they know what is allowed and what isn't and what might happen if they should breach that contract. Okay? Even put your payment terms. Very, very important. Absolutely put your payment terms in your contract. And I'll tell you a little bit story here in a minute. But consider how you're going to broach this information with your clients so it's not very intimidating, it's not very aggressive, but it's just business as usual. Okay? Get to a point where it sounds very natural for you. Now, talking about payment terms, I would say the national standard is a 30-day turnaround on invoices. Okay? Invoices are due 30 days from the time that you submit them. There are some freelancers who have their own policies that say, you know, please pay me within 15 days, payment due upon receipt, or they don't even have a due date on there. It's all over the spectrum, but I would say the average is 30 days. And that's, I think, standard for any professional business. All right? Now, what's going to happen if that client is late in paying? Do you have a policy set up? Typically, you can charge a late fee. Now, I learned this a hard way, but you are legally only allowed to charge 1.5% every 30 days. 1.5%. It's not a lot, but it's the principle of it. Some clients won't pay a late fee. Yet you also get to decide if you want to work with them again if they're late. Are they late because, you know, maybe there was some loss in translation? You know, maybe you sent it to your contact, the contact didn't send it to the accountant. Not your fault, but it's understandable. Maybe your contact is out sick and didn't get it to the accounting department in time. You know, certain things I think are allowable, and other things are just kind of like, meh, no, right? You know, also state in your contract what will happen if they don't pay at all. And this happens so often for freelancers. It really irritates me and makes me sad. The National Freelancers Union out of New York even has well, they have a couple of things. One, they have a hashtag that they use called Freelance Isn't Free. The other thing that they do once a year is they have the world's largest receipt going, and it's basically like all of their members submit all of the unpaid invoices, and it is huge. how many people try and get away with not paying freelancers. And it disgusts me, honestly. But I guess there's some comfort in knowing, we're not alone here in Kansas City, that this happens nationwide, if not worldwide. So why is it that these companies feel like they can take advantage of the self-employed? That's really what I want to know. But you be smart about things and understand what the law is, understand your legal rights, and make sure that you have everything spelled out in advance in your contract. All right. So you do that. You let them know what happens if they pay after 30 days. You let them know what happens if they don't pay at all. Like, will you go to small claims court? Will you turn things over to collections? If you do go to court, who's going to pay attorney's fees and court costs, right? Have that all spelled out in your contract. So, so important. Now, you may find that there are some companies who are unwilling to sign your contract, unfortunately. And it's up to you to trust your gut on whether or not that is going to be a good situation or not. More often than not, if it feels wrong, it probably is. And to me, that's a huge red flag. That's my flag. If somebody decides that, they're not going to sign my contract, but then I have to think to myself, is it a really big company who has a great reputation, or is it some small mom and pop shop who's just starting up and maybe doesn't have any money, or some startup, right? I have to trust my gut on that and whether or not I want to take that project. Now, here's an example that just happened to me a couple of years ago, where one of the largest ad agencies in town came to me with a rush project, although it was a 2-week advance notice for a rush project, which was kind of weird. And they came to me, and long story short, I gave them my estimate and they didn't sign the estimate. So of course I was like, eyebrows are raised. What's going on there? And, but the gal, my contact, responded back in the email and she said, okay, this looks good. We'll let you know next steps. And I was like, well, wait a second. So I turned around and I sent my contract and I sent my invoice for the deposit. And she came back and she's like, yeah, no, we don't sign freelancer contracts and we don't pay freelancer deposits. And I was like, what? And of course, red flag, red flag, red flag. And I'm like, this is so uncool. This is not, industry standard. What are you doing? And so then she says to me, she says, well, we have a contract that we ask our contractors to sign. Will you sign it? And I was like, honey, I'm not signing anything until I take a look at it. And neither should you, right? Look at everything with a fine-tooth comb. Send it over to an attorney to read as well. So as I'm reading through their 6-page document, most things in there are pretty standard. Who owns the work, non-compete, non-disclosure, blah, 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 blah. That's all fine and good. However, there was one line in there that really stood out to me and it just totally grabbed me. And it essentially said, we, the agency, will not pay you, the contractor, until 30 days after we get paid by our client. What? No, that's not the way it works. What's that commercial? That's not how any of this works, right? And it's just not. And so of course, I sent the contract over to my attorney and I was like, am I right to think that this is a huge red flag? And he said, absolutely. He's like, you do not sign that as is. You ask them to negotiate. And if they are unwilling, you walk the hell away. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I am with you. Because we as freelancers are not financial lending institutions. And we should not allow our clients to treat us as such. There is no reason why this large company, one of the largest agencies in town, did not have, you guys, it was a really small project, did not have $500 or whatever it was to pay me. They have that kind of money sitting around. But no, they're not going to pay me until they get paid by their client. That's not how it works. Why? So they can have their money sit in the bank and earn interest on it? What happens when their credit card comes due or their utility bill comes due? Is that what they tell them? Oh, no, sorry, we haven't been paid yet, so we're not going to pay you. No, it's the same concept, right? You are not a financial lending institution. Do not let your clients attempt to treat you as such. You are a business owner. You are the one who dictates your payment terms and your policies and your procedures, not them. Not only is this going to help you in the long run, but it's going to help all other freelancers as well, because we have to pave the way for the future. I think in the past, so many freelancers didn't know their legal rights. They didn't have the confidence to stand up for themselves. But now, as the economy is turning, right, we're in the middle of the gig economy, and more people are starting to freelance. I think by the year 2027, it's expected to be 50% of the United States workforce will be freelancing. We need to come together with similar policies and similar standards that we adhere to. All right. So like this 30-day payment policy is not Julie Cortés policy. It's not freelance exchange policy. It's industry standard. This is nationwide, if not worldwide, right? You get paid when your payment is due, when your invoice is due, not when they decide to pay you. So what I ended up doing in this particular scenario is I went back to them and I said, so I read your contract, and as part of my negotiations, I'd like to ask that we change this one line to, instead of you paying me 30 days after you get paid by your client, that you'll pay me 30 days or within 30 days of receiving my invoice. And they were like, oh, sure, no problem. No problem. Why didn't you have it in there to begin with? Why are you trying to take advantage of freelancers? Because they know that they can find some schmuck out there, you know, who's willing to do anything and everything just to work with this big agency to get that name on their resume. And they know that, and that's not cool. All right. So let's all have the same policies. Let's have similar procedures, right? And stand up for ourselves, stand up for freelancers in general, so we can all move forward stronger together. Okay, any questions on that? Comments? No. All right. Now, so there are some companies who, you know, that story that I just told, I understand that they were going to pay, but it just may not have been within my time frame. Now, what happens if somebody decides they don't like your work, or the project gets killed, or whatever? They decide they're not going to use your work, and so therefore they think they're not going to pay. What happens? What do you do? Because this happens more often than not, more often than I'd like to admit. It happens a lot. So again, it's up to us to train our clients on what is acceptable and what is not. Just because they decide not to use something doesn't mean that they can get away with not paying us. And I'll give you 2 examples of how we can equate this. Because first of all, you have to remember that we are service providers, not product providers. Okay, remember, service providers, not product providers. Think about when you go to a new hair salon or barber to get your hair cut or your hair colored. Maybe you don't like what the person did. And maybe you ask them to fix it while you're sitting there in the chair, but maybe you still don't like it. So you get up and you decide, I'm never coming back and I'm not referring you to anybody else. But you still pay your bill before you walk out the door. And this is the same concept. Maybe you weren't happy, but you still paid. Or what if you go to the doctor and God forbid you get some sort of diagnosis that you don't like? So of course you're like, I'm going to go get a second opinion. You still pay your bill for the first one, right? It's the same concept. Why should freelancers or artists not get paid for the work that they did? They should get paid, and make sure that is very clear upfront in your contract. And if they try and pull that BS on you, then you have a really solid contract that says this is what's going to happen if you don't pay. You know, or the people who are like, oh, why don't you just chalk it up to experience? No, I have plenty of experience. I don't need to chalk it up to experience for you to take advantage of me just because I'm self-employed. Okay? So it's almost like you have to grow a pair, if you will, pardon the expression, you know, to embrace your badassery. You train your clients what is acceptable and what is not in moving your business forward. Okay, so you do all of that, and you help out yourself and you help out your future freelancers. Now, moving forward, how are we on time? Oh, we're good. Okay, so you've trained yourself, you've trained your clients, and now you want to train your family and friends. Speaking of which, if you guys heard the vibrating in the background, that was my mother calling me. And what time is it? It's 1:30. I have a great story to go along with that. That was perfect timing, Mom. Thanks. So you train your family and friends. You know, whether you work from home and you have a spouse or you have kids or pets even can be, you know, around and distracting, all get out, or maybe you have a roommate. How can you train these people and animals to not bother you during the day while you're working? Now, animals is a different story, but maybe you can just close your door. Same thing for a spouse. You can close your door. You can put a sign on your door that says, do not disturb. You can ask them, hey, if my door is closed, don't come in. I'm busy, I'm heads down. I'm really focused right now, or I'm on the phone, or I'm on a Zoom call or a Zoom meeting, right? You have to train them how to treat you and what you will and won't allow. Think about if you had your 40-hour-a-week, desk job, office job, would they be bothering you just as much or just the same? Probably not. So define your expectations and let them know where you stand. Here's what I'm doing. I am working during my office hours. Please don't bother me unless it's an emergency. If it's an emergency, that's a different story. All right. So you've trained yourself on what your office hours are, and now you train them. Even like if your mother calls and it's not lunchtime, it's not before work, it's not after work, I don't answer the phone. Okay. Same thing with your friends or my friends. Don't answer the phone. There's no need to unless it's an emergency. And if it is an emergency, hopefully they leave you a message, right? Same goes for text messages, social media messages. Think about all of these things that can easily pull your focus away and distract you from being successful and purposeful with your day. Okay? All of these little things are distractions. And if you really want to succeed, again, you have to be serious about your business. Now, I'm not saying be a jerk about it, but have some sort of boundary, right? And what happens if they cross those boundaries? Okay, so here's what happened. Here's my story about my mother. It's just perfect timing that she called. I can't get over that. So this was probably 15 years ago. I was in my apartment, and so I'd been freelancing for, I don't know, 5-7 years, something like that. And I was in my apartment before I got married. I remember this. And we still had landlines, and fortunately caller ID had come out by then. And she calls me on my home office line once and didn't leave a message. Okay. She calls me on my cell phone once, doesn't leave a message. I'm like, all right, I guess it's not important, right? But then she called right back again, calls my home office line and doesn't leave a message, and then calls my cell phone again and doesn't leave a message. What do you guys think I'm thinking? Anybody? That it's an emergency.
Yeah, something
right?
bad happened.
Yeah, that something bad happened. God forbid, maybe my dad had a heart attack or something. Who knew? I had no idea. So of course I pick up the phone. I call my mom back right away. And I was like, Mom, is everything okay? And she's like, yeah, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm working. What do you mean, what am I doing? And she goes, well, drop what you're doing. Why, Mom? Why do I have to drop what I'm doing? Because there's a meat sale at Price Chopper. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You called me 4 times in the middle of my workday to disrupt me of my, paid livelihood here to tell me that there's a meat sale at Price Chopper. I mean, first of all, I'm not really the type of person to drop what I'm doing anyway for a meat sale, okay? But secondly, I just found that to be so ridiculous. And so I have tried to train her over the years. Please don't call me between working hours, unless it's an emergency. And if you do happen to call, just leave me a message, right? Just say, nothing important, call me when you get a chance. That's it. That's all I'm asking for, right? So, and I have to tell her too, if I don't call you back right away, I'm not mad at you. I'm not upset at you. I'm working, please respect that. I've even asked her too, would you have called and done the same thing if I worked at a company and I was on site there, 40 hours a week? And of course my mom, being the character that she is, she's like, yeah, probably, just because I don't think anything like that. I was like, okay, whatever. Anyway, so you train your family, you train your friends. You set expectations with them as well, especially if you work from home. So often we find ourselves where our spouse or our roommate might expect us to get certain things done during the day just simply because of our location, because we are at home. Oh, you're at home, you have flexible hours, you can get the laundry done. You can get the grocery shopping done, the cooking, the cleaning, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, I can, but should I? Like, if I really want to focus on my business and be serious about my business, should I really be doing those things during working hours? No. So ask them to respect that. Say, I will get things done. I will, pick up my fair share of whatever it is, the chores or the errands that need to be done, but they're going to be done either, during lunchtime or break or, after hours in the evenings and on the weekends. You've got to get yourself in that mindset first, and then you have to educate others, because otherwise they're going to have these asinine expectations of you. And so you have to put it out there of what what is going to happen, right? You train them. And this is the same thing for even phone calls. You know, I don't know if you guys have friends who like to call in the middle of the, I nobody really calls anymore, but you know, friends who just want to call and chit chat, you know, friends who want to say, hey, you know, let's go see a movie, or gosh, it's beautiful outside, let's go grab margaritas on the patio. Yes, that all sounds fabulous. And as freelancers, we have that flexibility to do that. Absolutely. That's one of the joys of freelancing. And I think doing that every once in a while is not going to hurt you. But all the time, yeah, it is going to hurt you. So you train yourself, you train your family and friends. You tell them, yeah, margaritas sound amazing and it is beautiful out today, but can it wait till 5? That would be great. I'm happy to meet you, but can it wait till 5? You know, personally, I tell my friends, I'm like, gosh, my boss is the biggest bitch. You know, I have to work till 5. But yes, then I'm happy to meet you afterwards. Okay. Get yourself in a working mindset so you can be successful with everything going forward. Okay. So if you want to embrace your badassery, you need to maintain professionalism through all of this, yet don't take any shit either. If you want to rock the freelance world, you need to, number 1, be bold. And when I say be bold, be confident enough to train yourself, train your clients, and train your family and friends. Get to know the things that you need to know in order to further yourself as a professional business freelancer. Okay. Number 2, I want you to be brave. Do not let clients take advantage of you. Just because you're self-employed doesn't mean they have that right. Set those policies and procedures, create your boundaries, arm yourself with knowledge such as your legal rights, know your industry standards, get involved with freelance organizations such as this, sign up for industry newsletters to educate yourself on all of this so you will be well prepared to stand up for yourself if and when the need should arise. And lastly, because this is what it's all about, you need to be badass, right? If you want to get ahead as a freelancer, you've got to embrace this mindset of being badass in everything that you do, because mindset plays a huge role in your success. Boundaries keep you sane and productive. And learning to take no shit not only helps yourself, but it helps others in return. So go ahead, make me proud, and embrace your own badassery. And if there's anything I can do to help, please let me know. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome. Any questions?
You talk about setting those boundaries for your friends and family, that sort of thing. So that's a timely point, because this weekend, a buddy of mine who's in a different city, but we were college roommates together and been still friends ever since. He's like, hey, I'm working on this business venture of some sort. I need help with this X part of the project. But he sent it very casually over text message. Well, as I asked more questions about kind of what you're looking for, you know, it came to be like he's just trying to start a business. He's got some things to kind of figure out from a comms perspective and branding perspective. So as I kind of thought more about it, like, well, this could, you know, he didn't come out and say, hey, I need to pay you for a freelance gig. He just kind of asked some professional advice of what I recommend. So as more I got into it, I said, well, I'm going to seize this as an opportunity to do so. And so I kind of get into it. And my question, I guess, the short story is, how do you kind of phrase it to the friend who makes kind of a casual ask? Because I know you're an expert in the area.
Right.
But you're still going to spend your time, energy, and expertise to put a quality thing together, whatever that thing is. Maybe it's a proposal, maybe it's a recommendation, maybe you're actually, you know, if they're a business of themselves, maybe you're writing the press release for them.
Right.
Is that part of what you mean by the boundaries? Like, okay, Julie, thanks for the request, but just so I'm clear, as you know, I'm a freelancer, so I'm taking this as a request to do a service for you, perform some work. Am I understanding that correctly? And if you like that, then kind of what Matt said earlier, here's the 3 different options of what I can provide for you. And then here's basically your official contract. So we almost kind of like formalizing the friendship request versus kind of doing something on the fly for free. Because what he was asking for was going to take more than just a simple text message response back or something like that. How do you kind of recommend or what that friend of kind of formalize that, I guess, potential opportunities, so you're just not giving away, you know, an hour or 2 of your expertise for free, especially if you are a full-time freelancer?
Right. And that's an excellent question. I used to get that all the time, hey, Julie, can I buy you a cup of coffee and pick your brain? And for the first few years, I was like, yeah, sure. I love giving back to the community. But then it became more and more often, and it was at least once a week. And it wasn't just the hour that I was gone talking to them, but it was also the travel time, and then half the time they wouldn't even pay for the coffee.
Yeah.
I think what you said is really good. Explain to them that this is what you do for your livelihood. If you want to offer like a free half-hour consultation, I think that's fine. But anything beyond that, I would say, this comes with the price. Now, in your pricing strategy, you may offer a friends and family discount, and maybe it's 50% of what you would normally charge, because yes, your friends and family will also try and take advantage of you and get free advice or free services. And that's up to you whether or not you want to do that. My personal policy is nope, unless it's my husband, nope, nobody gets anything for free. So, but yeah, I think just having that conversation with them, and being professional and confident about it, explain to them this is your livelihood, and you helping them for free takes away from the time and energy that you could use for other paid clients.
Thanks.
Does that help? Sure.
I think that's an
Anything
awkward,
else?
it's always awkward to respond to. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with kind of giving a white lie to say that either A, I don't work with friends at all just because it gets messy, or B, this is not my skill set, but hey, I have this other guy who does something who I think might even do a better job than I can. That kind of removes your personal feelings from it, because it is awkward to say, you've gone past your free consultation period to your friend. It's easy to do that to a business, but to a friend, that's hard to do.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Mixing business with friends or family can get really tricky. And so I think it's important to be very careful with that. And even if you do offer a discount to them in your estimate and in your invoice, I would actually show the full amount of what you would normally be charging. And then, give them the discount just so they understand the value of what you provided for them.
I really enjoyed the presentation, Julie. I think one of my takeaways with distractions, that's not only training your friends, but that's training yourself, that when I text my friend that, hey, I'm going to meet my friends that I'm going to be busy for the next 2 days, I'm probably not going to respond to you much. That mentally helps me out so that I don't feel so bad when I haven't responded to your messages or whatever it is.
Yeah, totally. Well, thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you being on here today. And Shelly, Victoria, do we have some sessions after this that people can attend, can jump in on? You guys want to plug those?
Yeah, we've got at 2:00, we've got portfolios with Byron Ginsberg. He's going to walk through how to set up your portfolio on the FX website for Freelance Exchange members, and the best way to do that. And then at 3:00, we've got Cammy's session on the Great Pause and other effects of COVID-19. And Victoria just posted those in the chat, so perfect. It's at 3:00. Cammy's is at 3:00. But anyway, yeah, this has been a really great thing. I appreciate everybody who's signed up and come to these presentations. I love all the speakers have been great. This is the second time I've heard this session of yours, Julie, and it's fantastic. It's a great reminder. You learn these lessons, but then you get another reminder. Oh yeah, I'm still not doing that. So that's something. Great session.
Yeah. Oh, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
This is more general to the Creative Exchange, to the Freelance Focus program. I was wondering if this has been so good and so helpful. Of course, I'm well outside Kansas City. I'm on the East Coast. Would you consider doing it online again?
Looking at you.
I think we would. I mean, this was great to do, especially with everybody at home right now and kind of needing a little extra support. It's something we may look into again later on, as maybe one presentation, a little bit longer with one speaker. And just, there's a lot of ideas that can come out of it. And there's things that we could probably tweak. I've been taking some notes of things that I would like to improve on if we do it again. But I think it's something as a board we'll probably discuss and maybe look at doing something similar in the future.
It's so helpful, especially because How has killed the creative independent track.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was How is a lot of value in general, but I was going specifically to How Design Live for that track.
Yeah,
And
me too.
I made a point of doing that. So this is so much of, this has been so valuable and really appreciate it. And as a first time attendee, I thought it went very smoothly.
Well, that's the idea. I mean, when you're the one who planned it, you need to look like you're sliding across like a duck. You're just gliding across the water, but the feet are going like.
Right. But there's a lot of glide. I mean, from the outside, it looked like you're glide. I mean, it was very, very smooth.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I hope everybody has gotten a lot out of it. I mean, I only do logistics. What's come out of this is because of the speakers and their knowledge and their talent and giving of their time. So I am so grateful. That's where the magic is. So
yeah, no, it's been great.
Awesome. Well, feel free to keep in touch, you guys. You can follow me on social media at KC Copy Diva, or go to my website, juliecortez.com. That's Cortez with an S at the end. And you can email me there. I have a free download, 7 tips to rock your freelance business, that will have a lot of reminders of the stuff that we went over today. So yeah, feel free to get in touch, to keep in touch, and hopefully we'll see you again.